Welcome to the Lit Mom Podcast, your go-to source for bite-sized literacy tips and tricks. Join me as we explore evidence-based strategies, techniques, and resources that promote strong reading and writing skill development. Get ready to empower your family with the knowledge and tools to navigate the world of structured literacy and unlock limitless potential. Welcome to the fourth episode of the Lit Mom Podcast, where we take a deep dive into what literacy looks like and how you can support your child's learning journey to becoming successful readers and writers at home. Today, we are going to focus on the foundational skill of phonological awareness and phonemic awareness. But as always, before we do that, I would like to first acknowledge the traditional territory in which I reside on. My family resides on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, which includes the Odawa, the Ojibwe, and the Potawatomi nations, also known as the Three Fires Confederacy. As we look forward to September, we know that school is starting up, and I wanted to share very quickly with educators that may be listening that there is going to be live sessions, and this was offered last year as well through the National Center of Truth and Reconciliation. And so during September 25th to 29th, there's going to be different sessions over 5 days linked to Truth and Reconciliation Week, which I think is really wonderful to check out. You can sign up for 1 day, you can sign up for 3 days, you can sign up for all of the days. And they're just short sessions that are going to be really valuable for your learning as well as your students' learning. So it's something that you can take part in together. I will put the link for the website in the show notes so you can sign up for each individual event if you're looking, and the public can also sign up for day 4. So I think it's a really great learning opportunity for everyone, and it gives you different topics. So I do recommend checking it out if you are looking to extend your learning as you start the school year. Over the next 15 minutes, we are going to focus on phonological awareness and phonemic awareness. First things first, phonological awareness is an umbrella term that we use to talk about the ability to recognize and manipulate spoken parts of sentences and words. Phonological awareness is considered a term that has several skills within it that we want for children to understand and be able to do independently when we talk about literacy and reading and writing. When we consider phonological awareness, what I want to share is that it is at times explained as a continuum based on the size of the spoken language or units that we are focused on. So we will begin with the biggest units and move to the smallest units when we talk about phonological awareness and how the skills fall along this continuum. With that being said, I want to make sure that it is clear that just because it is on a continuum with the size or chunk of spoken language that we're focusing on with children, it doesn't mean that your child needs to start at the very beginning, be able to become proficient in the first skill before they move on to the next and the next. That's not the case, and research is showing that we actually want to spend a majority of our time focusing on the tail end, which is phonemic awareness, and still talk about the other components, but the component when it comes to reading and writing is going to be understanding phonemic awareness. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out first before we get too far into the episode. Now I'm going to really quickly explain all of the areas of phonological awareness so you have an understanding, because it can be beneficial for you to practice different components of it. Again, just remember that we want to spend most of our time focusing on the phonemic awareness part of phonological awareness. Biggest chunk of spoken language that we want for children to have an understanding of is that sentences are made up of words. And one way that we can practice this is very simply by giving them a sentence, by saying a sentence out loud and having them tell us how many words do they hear in the sentence. So it can start off with being 3 words in a sentence and moving up to 5 or 6 words. Again, it's just going to be that understanding that I can take a sentence and break it down into words. So I might say, I see a cat. And what's going to happen is your child would go, I see a cat. 4 words in the sentence. That's the skill that we want for them to be proficient in. The next portion is talking about rhyming. So whether you do nursery rhymes, when you are reading a book, you might point out that, oh, these words end in the same sound. Do you hear that in the word rat and sat? It has the at sound at the end. So we're starting to break words down into smaller components and pieces, but they're recognizing the relationships between that words are going to end with the same sounds. so they rhyme. You can do simple games where you give them 2 words and ask them, do these 2 words rhyme? Yes or no. And then you do thumbs up, thumbs down. You can have them move across the room to show yes or no if they like to move, but really quickly just giving them 2 words and asking them, do they rhyme? Yes or no. The next piece, once they're able to really pick out between words if they rhyme or not, you can ask them to give you a word or multiple words that rhyme with the word that you give them. So for example, I might say, I'm thinking of the word frog. Can you tell me a word that rhymes with frog? And see how many words they can come up with that rhyme with it. Again, it's really great practice. It is something that can be done anywhere. It's really simple. You don't need to have any items with you. But again, really great way to practice and recognize rhyming. The next piece is going to be syllables. So we have the understanding that words can be broken down or are made up of syllables. And this is similar to the rhyming. You can point out words when you're doing read alouds. You can point out things on walks, and you can say, I'm thinking of the word cupcake. How many syllables do we hear in the word cupcake? And it is easier to start with those compound words where each word can be a word on its own or put together to make up a word. So again, cupcake, cupcake. 2 words or 2 syllables make up the word cupcake. And you can slowly start to break it down if they have an understanding of that into words that aren't compound words anymore, but that have multiple syllables. So purple, how many sounds or syllables do you hear in purple? Purple. 2 syllables make up the word purple. Okay, so again, these are showing children that we are starting to take words and break them down into smaller chunks. That is going to be really helpful when we're talking about decoding and encoding and how they can start to manipulate words or change words. The next piece and the key piece that we're going to spend a portion of the podcast talking about is phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is the understanding, again, that words are made up of individual phonemes or sounds. So this actually has 4 different areas or focus points, skills that we want for children to develop. Within the 4 skills, I will say that 2 of them have been linked over and over again in research to being really important for reading and writing. So I'm going to explain all 4, but if we're talking about having that time to practice certain skills, I would say there are 2 that you really want to be practicing with your child when you get the chance. There is some dispute over doing this all orally. So again, just talking, not having anything in front of your child. But again, this comes down to the research idea that phonological awareness is the oral piece. And then when we bring in letters or graphemes visually for them to see, it starts to become that phonics component. I think that at home, it is really great to start out with doing this orally and see how your child does with it all. And then if you are practicing certain letter sound pairings, then you can tie them in together as well. Or when they're beginning to read and write, it starts to become something further or deeper than just the phonemic awareness components. So phonemic awareness has 4 kind of skill sets within it. The first one is that we are able to isolate specific sounds in words. And one way to practice isolation with your child is you're going to say, I'm thinking of a word and I want for you to tell me the beginning sound. So always start with the beginning sound in a word. This is typically easier for a child to pick out. And so it's going to be, the word is bed. What is my beginning sound? And they're going to say, B. Perfect. After lots of practice and repetition, they should be able to easily pick out the beginning sound in a word. Again, they're orally going to just listen and tell you what they're thinking or what they hear. After they have become proficient in picking out the beginning sounds, you're going to move to the end sound. So I recommend picking words that have 3 sounds in them. We also call these CVC words. But again, they're not really big words that we're focusing on. We just want for them to be able to attend to the beginning sound, then move to the end sound. So if my word was dog, what is the final sound you hear in dog? Your child should be able to say the final sound is G. Once they have beginning and end or final sounds mastered or proficient with, then move into the middle. The middle is the trickier sound for them to be able to pick out. But again, it's typically going to be a vowel. So you want for them to be able to pick out that middle sound and ignore the 2 outer sounds within the word. So my word is cup. What is the middle sound? They should be able to say the middle sound is That is isolation, being able to individually pick out sounds within a word. Another piece, and these are going to be the next 2, are the most important in research when it comes to reading and writing, is being able to blend sounds together and segment. So if you're going to be spending time at home, I really encourage you to focus on blending and segmenting. It was a key component in my grade 1 class and in kindergarten as a warm up to getting into our phonics activities every day. And UFly uses this just as kind of the warm up piece for the program. So I think it's really great to be practicing at home, and your child will likely become very familiar with this because phonemic awareness is actually in our new language curriculum as a key expectation that children need to have an understanding of. So this is something that is going to be required to be taught within the classroom for our early primary. So it is something that your child should be familiar with once they get into the school year. And so blending is just taking individual sounds as if I was reading a word and pulling them together to say what the individual word is. So if you are looking to practice this at home, I recommend starting with words that are going to only have 2 sounds in them, very simple. And if you are able to pick words that have a continuous phoneme first, so this could be that M spells and you can hold for as long as you need to. Another one is F, V, S, A. Those are all really great ones to have words that start with. And again, all I would do with Emerson, it's something that we practiced often, is I would give him a word and say, okay, I'm going to speak really slowly, like a robot, like a sloth, like a turtle, have them pick something that's really slow moving. And I'm going to talk like that. And I want for you to tell me what my word is. And so you would go at, and they'd say at. And I will give you the heads up that there are going to be times in the beginning where you give your child a word to blend together and they give you a completely different word. So we have done this several times with M in the beginning, and I would say at, and he would go cat. And you're like, that's not the word. And you'd go through it again. This is okay. This is expected. This is often something that children do. Again, if that is something that happens where they completely change the word, maybe go back to a word that's only 2 phonemes or sounds instead of 3. Once they're able to do ones that have 2 sounds, 3 sounds, you can move into 4 or 5 sounds just as an extra challenge. But again, starting with the most simple and moving on to more challenging, but you want for them to be able to hear sounds and blend them together to tell you what the word is. This can be done anywhere, in the car if you need to, out for a walk. Again, I like to pick activities that you can do anywhere that don't require any materials. And then segmenting is the opposite. Segmenting really helps for spelling, whereas blending helps for reading and decoding. Segmenting, you would say, I'm going to give you a word and I would like for you to break it down and tell me how many sounds you hear in the word. So again, you're going to start with simple words that have 2 phonemes in them first before you move on to ones that are more complex. So your word could be it. You're going to say, my word is it. How many sounds do you hear in the word it? And they should be able to say it, 2 sounds in the word it. Mm-hmm. And again, it's practice and repetition. This is a new skill for many of our littles. So you just want to give them the opportunity to practice it. If they make an error, you simply just show them what the correct response would be and then have them try it again. It's something that is going to take time. So we want to have patience and make it fun. Don't spend too much time on it. Just really quick opportunities or moments within your day for them to be practicing this skill. And the next one, the final one in phonemic awareness, again, this one is helpful and it's a strategy for being able to think mentally about how we can change and shift words, is how we can manipulate words to change the sounds. So you can give them a simple word. My word is at. If I change the sound to what is my word? And they should be able to say it. That is completely changing and shifting a word based on one phoneme. It is, again, a mental strategy that we want for children to have so that if we're giving them a word to spell and they want to change the word or they know how to spell a specific word, eventually they're going to be able to just make that connection that they can change one sound to change the whole word completely. But again, focusing on blending and segmenting with your child when possible, because these are going to be linked back to reading and writing skill development. I feel like I've thrown a lot of information at you. I hope that it is going to be helpful with regards to focusing on phonemic awareness at home with your child. Again, blending and segmenting are those key areas, but there is no harm in practicing rhyming with your child, singing songs that have rhymes in them, picking out words within sentences. working on syllables, and other ways that you can do this too across the board for phonological awareness is you can play I spy. So if you are sitting somewhere in a room, you can say, I spy a word that rhymes with dog, or I spy a word that begins with or I spy a word that ends in. And then again, for blending and segmenting, I spy the word at. What's my word? Then they have to find it. Just making them very short and simple games that you can be doing with your children to support these skills at home. Another piece that I think is really helpful is to have a gesture or a movement for your child when they're trying to blend or segment a word. So in class, the one that I often did was our kiddos thought of their arm as a slide. And as we said a word, they would move down their arm to show their thinking. So if I said that my word was cat, they would go at cat. Okay. And so again, it could be hopping, it could be moving. You can go head, shoulders, toes, whatever works for you. Or you might start to notice that your child comes home with a strategy that they're doing in class, which is great to support. But it's just kind of giving them a little bit of a movement to tie into their thinking. And for segmenting, it is similar. So if the word was rat, they're going to have their hand out and they're going to say rat, at rat. It shows you how many movements they're making for sounds as well. But using the arm as a slide is one that has stuck with me, and the kiddos have really enjoyed in class as well. Eventually, they're not going to need to do a gesture, or if your child is a little bit older, they might be able to do it in their hand. You might see them tapping their fingers. That is okay too. Whatever is going to support their learning. Again, they might have a preferred way of doing it, and that's totally okay too. It's just something to think about, is adding in a gesture, a movement to help support that learning when we're blending or segmenting practice. While all of this can be done orally, if your child is working on letter formation and printing, you can also start to give them a word, a simple word, whether it is one that has 3 sounds, CVC, so consonant, vowel, consonant. Give them a word and have them practice writing it. And again, writing is really important in our literacy and the foundational skills that we want for children to learn. We often say that if a child can write it, then they can read it. Writing is definitely one of those challenging tasks that children may sometimes avoid because they haven't developed the skills yet to be able to independently write. So being able to dictate simple words to them and have them spell them is a great strategy as well. But this is something that's going to be further along for kiddos that have learned some of the letter sound correspondence. They understand that the letter T spells T. So if I was to give them the word tub, they could understand the word that I'm giving them. So we don't want to give them words that they don't know the letter sound pairs for yet. So making sure that if you've talked to your child or you understand what letters and graphemes they know, make sure that you don't give them one that they haven't been explicitly exposed to yet, and keeping it simple and fun. But we always want to tie in writing where possible. But again, when we talk about phonological awareness and specifically phonemic awareness, it can be done orally to keep it simple for you at home. Just thinking about if your child is working on writing, you can always tie that in too. As always, we are going to finish up the podcast with a free resource that I think is worth checking out, as well as a picture book recommendation. The free resource this week that I would like to share is WordForce. WordForce is an app that you can download on your phones or iPads. Educators, I would recommend checking out WordForce as a free option for your class. You can sign up for your class as well. It is game-based, but it focuses on the phonological awareness skills, rhyming, phonemic awareness with blending and segmenting. It also has little videos. So the videos play before the game to help your child to develop the skills and strategies that they need to be successful in using the skills to complete the game, which I think is really awesome. And I will say that this is a game that I have on my phone for Emerson, and there have been times where Em has asked me for my phone to look at pictures or to look at something, and when I go to get my phone back, he's playing WordForce. So he really enjoys the game. It's educational, it's fun, and again, it's giving them the opportunity to practice these really key skills that they need when we talk about reading and writing. So it's worth checking out. Again, it is free and game-based, so our kiddos tend to love those opportunities to engage in play. Final piece is my picture book recommendation this week. And this is one that I have recommended previously on social media, but I think it's a really fun book and a great way to talk about the phonemic awareness and how we can manipulate and change words by taking out a sound or changing a sound is the book My Pet Feet. This book is by Josh Funk and Billy Young. And so again, it is a story about how the letter R has been removed from the alphabet for some reason. And so any word that previously had the letter R in it no longer has the letter R. So it changes how the story takes place because all of these words are no longer what they used to be. So while this is a cute little ferret, it now becomes feet. So cute story, kids love it. You can sit and focus and notice in the pictures how the words have changed or what would happen if you added an R into the words. Again, just thinking about how we can manipulate and delete a single sound to change a whole entire word. So My Pet Feet is my recommendation for this week if you are looking. Something that I almost forgot to mention, and I think is really important, and it was on my list of things to mention, is that if your child is in a French immersion program, this is going to be a really great skill for you to practice at home. The blending and segmenting, the building of phonemic awareness. Research has found that children that are in French immersion programs and are finding it difficult to learn how to read in French, it is going to be beneficial for them to have phonological awareness training, support, phonemic awareness training in English. If they're able to practice in English, it is going to transfer over into French as well. So if you are a parent or family member at home, like myself, who does not speak French, but you are looking to support your child in developing skills that are going to benefit them when they are speaking and reading and writing in French, I do recommend doing phonemic awareness. Blending and segmenting are skills that they are going to be able to transfer over from English to French. So this is going to be a great strategy for you to be doing at home with your child that's going to support them, even if you're not speaking the same language that they're learning at school. Practice in English, blending and segmenting words, and it is going to support them in their learning journey in French. That's it for episode 4. I hope that you have gathered some new information, deeper understanding for what phonological awareness is and the skills that come into phonological awareness, that you have the confidence to jump into trying out blending and segmenting with your child. Again, remember that we want to start out with simple concepts and moving into more complex. And again, do this anywhere, do it for 1 or 2 minutes. It's not something that we can expect our children to have become proficient in until they have lots of opportunity to practice it. So it's just something to start and try out. And if, again, they give you a word that's completely opposite of what you've told them, this is okay, this is totally normal. Just keep practicing, and I promise you they're going to pick up on this skill. Tune in 2 weeks for episode 5, where we start to talk about background knowledge and how you can develop your child's background knowledge, which is going to support them in their reading comprehension and development for learning and reading and writing. I'm Deb. I'm your host of the Lit Mom podcast, bringing literacy tips and tricks straight to your headphones.